Welcome to TIMA in Session. Due to COVID-19, we are practicing social distancing. So therefore, the segment that you're about to view is a virtual interview with our guest. You will see the guest, but you'll only hear the voice of the host. We hope that you're being safe and prayerful at this time. And we hope that you enjoy this segment of TIMA in Session. Alrighty, sir. Thank you for being here on TIMA in Session with us.
All right. It's a pleasure to be here with my sister. I love you for real. Beautiful heart, beautiful spirit. So it's an honor for me to be here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So introduce yourself to the people.
I am Elder Dwight Follins, or just simply Dwight Follins. First love is ministry. Second love is music and the arts, music and industry. And God has developed me into that area. I'm a living witness that if you can visualize it, if you could see it in your mind, God will bring it into your reality. And that's what he's done in all of my life. I started out in music as a choir director, and then I went from that, being a choir director. I got a few roles off Broadway, and then I transitioned from being off Broadway into music production, working with the Stellas. I worked with the Doves. I worked at Trumpet Awards, Black Music Honors, and I'm so glad. So all those things are willed to me, and when I was younger, and God brought them into my life, as I got older.
So you've never ever actually stuck down one path of music?
I kind of stepped down several paths, so I can't just say one. A lot of us, especially in the African American community, our first path or first introduction to music comes from the church. The church has always been a training ground or a launching for your destiny or something. A lot of us got our first experiences from the church, just like me, singing in the youth choir and then becoming a youth choir leader or choir director. Then I went into high school where I did a lot of music things. I was in show choir. I was even up in orchestra. People don't believe that, but I played in the orchestra for at least 3 years, and I played the cello. Unbeknownst, the cello is a baritone instrument, and that's the same vocal tone as my voice. So then I went from there doing orchestra to show choir. Show choir set me up for theater. I started singing and dancing and doing stuff in show choir, and then after that, it's like one bridge led to me to go over into a whole nother area. So I can't just say one entity of music, several.
Which one do you love the best?
Out of all of my entities of music, the one that I love the best is music ministry. Music ministry gives the best results. Secondly, theater gives a good feel. You can evolve. You can become whoever character, whatever you want to in theater. But music ministry actually has a lasting effect. You'll meet people from years on down and say, you sung a song in church that saved me, or you sung a song in ministry that you didn't know I needed that. It healed. I was going through healing from cancer or a bad marriage or whatever. And so I would say out of all of them, gospel music or music ministry has had the best effect, and it is my favorite.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the gospel music ministry. How do you, what differences do you see in the gospel music ministry today versus 20 years ago?
Gospel music has evolved, or it has shifted. So as our form of worship is changed and shifted, especially with certain things that are going on in the world and globally now. But from the past, gospel music was more, intimate, and it was more community, because choir was really big. But then in the 90s going into the 2000s, we shifted from choir over into praise team. And then in that, it kind of excluded a lot of people out of, because choir included everybody. When you sung in your church choir, that was whosoever will. You had Mother Irma, Sister Bertha, and all those people coming together to make one sound. You see people on Sunday morning walking down the street with their choir robes thrown across their shoulder, going to church. But now you don't. Most of the work is on the praise team and praise leaders. So I have seen it evolve from a community effort to an individual effort. And it kind of is getting me scared, but because of the trouble that times are in and the things that we're going through now, it's now going back into an inclusive worship and not an exclusive worship.
This episode of TIMA in Session is brought to you by The Branding Spot. Don't just make an impression, leave your mark. So, do you feel like the whole thing with the praise teams that evolved, do you feel like it was a mistake to go in that direction?
No, I don't feel like it was a mistake, but I feel like everything has to be done with strategy. And I'll say that it has to be done strategically. For a church to only have those entities, if it's a large church or a bigger group, and that's the only entity you have, you're kind of excluding some certain people when it comes to the worship. That's why worship leaders, the first thing that a worship leader must do is evaluate its audience or the people that they're ministering to, because every worship leader has to minister to all generations. So if you just sing one genre of gospel music, you're not ministering to the whole generation, because the older saints have nothing to do. They can't relate to that. And a lot of the new stuff has a lot of words, so they can't relate to that. So if you are a worship leader, you must become inclusive. I could say that it's not bad, but it's not good for every church. You hear me? If your church is geared toward a holistic worship style, including hymns, anthems, and CCM music, which is the Christian contemporary, as well as the traditional old stuff with Dorothy Love Coates and all those things. And so you got to know that, and you got to embrace every generation. So for me to say that it's bad, I can't say. I just say you have to use strategy and wisdom when incorporating that type of worship in your worship experience, because you don't want to leave nobody out.
Now, I have heard it insinuated that as far as having praise and worship, going through this shift, we went through this shift pretty much kind of like in a faddish kind of way, was the way that it was expressed. But we really didn't delve into the real meaning of worship and what it is and how it should be conducted. So that being said, if you agree with that or disagree with it, and number two, if you agree with it, why? And if you disagree with it, why?
Okay, all right. That was an extensive question. I will revert back to my previous answer. I can agree to disagree with that statement because we did not go into it. We did flow with the fad. Every church was doing it, everybody, and we jumped into it. And then you had people say, the church is not, we're still stuck in the past. We're stuck. The Bible even says in the book of Jeremiah, don't stray from the old path, for it is good. I think that we should have merged them together and fused it together. There are some churches that have successfully done that, and their music department is holistic and their music department is well-rounded. I just think that when you do it, you must have a strategy to do it. You just can't abruptly put something on people, or you just can't abruptly change it. Even when it comes to the dynamics of worship, you got to ease your church into it and present it. Presentation is so important. If you present it in a way to where people will want to embrace it, they'll want more. And a key to doing that, I'll give you a good key, is through a medley style of worship, connecting all of your songs together. Do the new stuff, but find something older and traditional and loop it all together. And this is the number one mistake. A lot of people say we are a worshiping church, and I'm gonna make some people upset when I say this. There's no such thing. Praise and worship goes together. You just can't be a one-dimensional church. You just got to say, we are a church that just gives God praise in spirit and truth, because that's the requirement. They that worship me must worship me in spirit and in truth. So just to limit your style of worship to one word, that's not good. So I would say to people, you got to embrace all of it. You should. Praise always gives to worship. Worship always gives to praise. And that's the yin and the yang of it. I tell people that. So don't ever say that. And yeah, you may sing a lot of hillside songs, but you got to sing some anthems and some hymns and some traditional pieces so everybody could get a part.
A Minute and a Moment by Elder Dwight Follins. Available now at dwightfollins.com.
Praise and worship goes together. You just can't be a one-dimensional church. You just got to say, we are a church that just gives God praise in spirit and truth, because that's the requirement. They that worship me must worship me in spirit and in truth. So just to limit your style of worship to one word, that's not good. So I would say to people, you got to embrace all of it. You should. Praise always gives to worship. Worship always gives to praise. And that's the yin and the yang of it. I tell people that. So don't ever say that. Yeah, you may sing a lot of hillside songs, but you got to sing some anthems and some hymns and some traditional pieces so everybody could get a part of it. Jesus was called the rabbi, and the word rabbi means master teacher, or the teacher of teachers. He gave us a good example. He was the only person that taught a sermon, and everybody from scholars to children walked away with the same meaning. And that's what our worship should be. From the old seasoned saints that are 80 and down, and from the baby boomers that are in their 70s, 60s, and all the way from the Generation X, all the way to the millennials. We should all walk away from worship feeling the same way, and worship always makes the word easy. So every worshiper leader, your job is to make the path of the word easy. So that's what I say. So you gave me a complex question, so I gave you a complex answer.
It's okay. It's okay. Okay, so go back a little bit and you talked about the dynamics of worship. Can you elaborate more on what that is, what the dynamics of worship?
The dynamics of worship is the span of it, and it deals with the cultural influence. The dynamics of worship has to deal with your proxemics, your location, your church. And for an example, if I get an invitation to go and do worship or even minister the word at a particular church, I must examine the denomination, the faith of the church, what they believe. Are they a charismatic church? Are they a traditional church? Or are they a conservative church? And those are all the dynamics that you have to bring into play when it comes to worship. You have to bring all those things. What kind of audience am I dealing with? And even if you are a regular worship leader, you got to have good communication with your pastor. Pastor, what are you trying to relay today? Or what is the Lord giving you for this month? So when we go into worship, the dynamics will line up with the word, and we will all reach a desired place of parking in the natural and in the spirit. So that's when I say the dynamics. You got to take into the consideration the culture. You got to take into consideration the generation, and then you got to take into the consideration the theology of what church or what place that you're ministering.
Stay in the know with TIMA, the International Music Association, a globally inspired music movement. For more information, visit www.jointima.org. Let's talk a little bit about the musicians in the church. Mm-hmm. There's so many dynamics to musicians in the church today, and one of them has to do with skill.
Okay.
So, how do you feel about musicians that are talented and know how to play, but maybe have not actually honed their skill through learning how to read music, or, really just practicing kind of flying by the seat of their pants? Can you speak to that a little bit?
I can. Now, I'm not a musician, but the vocal ability is the same thing. It's on the same line. All of them are crafts that have to be mastered. And I'm going to say this sharply: music is a competitive thing. So that means you must always be relevant. Where we run into a lot of younger musicians is they have it, they learn to play it, but they don't master and sharpen that craft. You must be around people. You must find somebody that's musically higher than you and glean from them, learn from them. And you must learn everything to maximize your skill. You got to learn the uncomfortable part. The part that you're afraid of. I notice a lot of younger musicians, they like to play the keyboard so they can transpose and cheat a little bit, but you need to get around somebody who could play an organ, because you can't cheat with an organ. Get around somebody who knows the scale, who could teach you how to do finger kegels, where you're going up and down and all those things. You know, when I took piano 1, because I was trying to be a music minor, it was very difficult. But those piano things was wearing me out. But in the end, I saw what they're saying. The monotony of doing that over and over and over will strengthen your fingers and allow you to be a better skillful player. And it's the same thing with musicians. I don't care whether you're a drummer, you have to learn different rudiments, different rhythm patterns. You must learn so many things. You must learn how to play in every key, you know. So when somebody get up to sing, you won't be going, and that's just a nuisance. We halfway through the song and you still, you know. So we gotta be around somebody, to answer this simply, be around somebody whose music ability is higher than yours. Sit at their feet, learn from them. Every great person has had a mentor. You hear me? Even the great Donald Lawrence, I remember him saying he gravitated from Richard Smallwood and Roberta Flack. He learned from people, somebody that was higher than him. So that's a problem we're having now. Find you, every mentee needs a mentor, you know, and every mentor loves a mentee, because they love pouring into somebody and seeing how life develops that person and saying, I had a hand in that.
So tell people, how do you find a good mentor?
Okay. Yeah. A lot of, for me, I went to a lot of workshops. I went to where they were. I surrounded myself with people who had information as to how to get to another level. You got to go where they are. You got to do some research. And if you don't have one in your city or your area, guess what, y'all? There's no excuse. We got social media now. We got the internet. There are so many people doing master's classes. You could go to YouTube and look at somebody teaching you how to play different songs and different keys and different things. So it's no excuse. You just have to get out there and go after it. You know, nobody's going to come to you and just say, hey, I want to pour into you. They got to see something that's worth them investing their time and their talent in you. You know, so that's across the board. You just got to go after it.
So you can't just like it. You have to love it enough to invest in yourself and invest in the craft itself.
Yeah. Anything you love, you take care of. And I had to learn that even as a vocalist or as a singer. I'm not one of them singers that do all them riffs and rolls. I'm just the kind of singer that I get you in the presence of the Lord or whatever. But even after that, I had to learn how to be in silence, so that when I do stand, I have clear tone. When I do sing, I can sing from the diaphragm. I had to learn how to rest and relax the vocal cords and have proper hydration. A lot of singers messed up when that comes to that, because they don't have proper hydration. Hydration and rest is so important to the vocal cords, because the vocal cords do like this. And if you don't have an adequate amount of water or hydration in your body, it causes calluses to go in the vocal cords, which are vocal nodules, you know. And it's different with musicians. Music is ever evolving. If you're not playing and practicing your skill daily, then guess what? Somebody else is going to come and they're going to surpass you, because their hunger is greater. So
TIMA is sponsored in part by Psalms Group Studios, home of the new album Altar Call by Ryan Rutley, available now on all digital outlets. I want you to give advice to your younger self as it relates to ministry, whether it's music ministry or your preacher ministry. If you had to give your younger self some advice, what would that advice be?
My younger self would be discipline. Practice discipline, because Denzel Washington said something that hit me in my heart that I wish I would have gotten when I was younger. If you do what you gotta do now, you could do what you wanna do later. So I would say practice disciplines, practice a pattern, practice a monotony of better thinking, better living, master your craft, you hear me? And those disciplines go a long way, not just in skill, but in finances. And most of all, in love. You know, become so disciplined in your emotions, become disciplined in every area of your life, because discipline brings out a desired outcome. It does bring a desired end. And if I see if I see anything going wrong, not just with my mistakes in the past, but with young people I see now, they lack the patience of discipline. And we must learn how to become disciplined in every area of our life, because it will pay off in the end. And I'll leave that with you again, what Denzel Washington said to a lot of his mentees when he was lecturing. Do what you gotta do now so you could do what you want to do later. And that's so true.
For anyone who wants to contact you for more questions, information, they invite you to preach or to sing. Give us your contact information.
Listen, my contact information is on social media. I have 2 pages because one is full, but if you inbox me on either page, I will answer. It's Dwight Follins. The other one is Dwight Follins page 2. You know what I mean? Then I have a ministry page, Dwight Follins Ministries. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's Dwight Follins. Please subscribe. And those are my entities. I am on Twitter, but I'm not as active as I need to be. Listen, I'm the older crew. I'm not with all of that. So I try to, y'all, it's just too much. But and on Instagram, it's Elder Dwight. You can follow me as Elder Dwight on those social media outlets. Instagram, Elder Dwight. On YouTube, it's Dwight Follins. On Facebook, it's Dwight Follins and Dwight Follins page 2 and Dwight Follins Ministries. If you follow me on any of those entities, it will be me. If you see anything other than that, it's an imposter. All right, but I would love to interact with anybody. If you want me to come for any workshops, ministry engagements, or what have you, I will be delighted. People for some reason like for me to MC musicals. I don't mind doing that because I learned how to be fruitful and keep the thing moving, but yet be anointed. All right. But it's just a love to be able to impart my gifts, my mistakes, and my wisdom to a lot of people. You heard? Because we can't die full. We got to die empty. All right. And I got a lot in me. Look at all these.
Thank you so much for being with us on TIMA in Session. We appreciate you being with us, and we hope to have you back again.
Yes, it was a pleasure. You all be blessed. And I say this to everybody, only move in 2 directions, up and forward, and I'll meet you at the top. There's room for you at the top.
Thank you for taking the time out to view our segment for today. And we'd also like to thank our very special guest, Elder Dwight Follins, for being with us for this segment of TIMA in Session. My name is Teresa Tyree. I'm your host, and we'll see you next time.